This leak may or may not be real. So first we're going to get through what the leaker claims is going on at Blizzard. And then after this, we're going to go and analyze what an actual ex-Blizzard employee had to say about it. That being Mark Curd. So here's what was dropped. I'm dropping this here after getting chewed out for 3 hours over shit the Chewy did at work. So fuck it. Assume LARP and let me vent. I love the days of the internet. You really, if you're an employer and you treat your employees like shit, all your dirty laundry is going to be aired out. So here's the Blizzard leaks. And remember, full disclosure, Blizzard used to be my favorite developer. In my early years when I was getting into gaming, Warcraft 2 especially, but also Diablo, also StarCraft, those games, they were a big part of my childhood. It's really sad seeing what's become of Blizzard right now. This is an environment that I think Asmongold pointed out, like all these guys are just coasting on the goodwill and success of their predecessors who would be canceled if they worked there today. Everyone who's responsible for making Blizzard great would not be allowed to work at current year Blizzard. They all abandoned ship anyway. So let's see what's going on right now. Allegedly. Again, these are unverifiable rumors. But we're going to get to something that is more verifiable later. Shadowlands is a shit show. I think the fact that everyone is going to Final Fantasy XIV in such numbers that Squeenix stopped selling digital codes because they were under such heavy strain, that should tell you all you need to know about the state of World of Warcraft. Critical response, player drop-off, and just about every engagement metric is outside of the cash shop, which apparently is doing great, have been catastrophic. No higher up expected this because of their "we are too big to fail, if we built it, they will come" mentality. They refuse to accept their focus on the world being a begrudged mechanic to funnel players into raiding is not appealing to the player base, or at large because it appeals to them. They have spent the last 4 months trying to course correct, but there's no solid direction, and the response to 9.1 has only made things worse. Yeah, so the guy who's currently in charge is Ian Hezakostas, who he's actually good at what he does. Like, I think he was originally like their lead raid designer. So of course he's going to redirect the focus of the whole game around raiding. That's his specialty. Sylvanas' plan to replace the Arbiter, despite so many people in the company and God knows how many online saying this would be a total replication of Kerrigan's storyline in StarCraft 2 that killed non-competitive interest in the brand entirely. And you can only go, no, they will like it eventually for so many real-world years before it's time to change course. Thus far has not happened. Now, I think they could have ended the StarCraft storyline with Heart of the Swarm. I mean, honestly, Legacy of the Void was great in moments, and it did a pretty good job basically wrapping the story up to the point you don't need anything more after that. But Kerrigan's storyline in StarCraft, up until Legacy of the Void, was great. Now, I still remember, I've been waiting for over like 10 or was it 15 years to finally see Kerrigan get Arcturus Manx back for what he did. So in the last cutscene of Heart of the Swarm, like I actually cheered in real life. Like that was the shit. Like that was probably one of my best gaming moments. God, I miss old Blizzard. The elephant in the room is Final Fantasy XIV. To the people in charge, they are acting like this came out of nowhere and don't seem to understand why it's drawing players away in their tens of thousands. We have all tried to highlight things it is doing that are clearly appealing to an MMO audience and not, in my opinion, focusing more on mobile-style game retention traps to keep the MAU users and habit-forming personalities logged in. It's not that they don't care. They just seem so pig-headed and digging in their heels in with their fingers in their ears, thinking all the problems would go away because WoW is too big to fail. Until it failed. There will never be real competition, and they will keep coming back, but they aren't coming back anymore, not in the numbers they used to. Yeah, I was one of those people. I was one of those people who like I play every time a new expansion to WoW came out, I came back for it. And then I played a few months and then I left and then I came back for the major updates and the like. I used to do that. And then I played better MMOs. Like I played Terra, I played Blade and Soul. Blade and Soul especially was just such a better game that I no longer feel the need to go back to World of Warcraft. Like all the nostalgia I had for it has been completely crushed. And I'm not the only one who's not coming back anymore. The people making the spending choices know this. The new model for WoW is to market the hell out of an expansion pack for a huge quarter, then use 6-month lock-ins to pad numbers for the quarters after that. Yeah, that's why they sell those. They say, oh, for a limited time only, get this unique mount. And by unique, you mean a recolor of an existing mount. But the caveat is you have to buy a 6-month subscription. So right at the beginning of the expansion, they sell you a 6-month subscription to get that mount. They rely on fear of missing out. Even if the Rona had not happened, 9.1 would still have been dropping after the initial 6-month sub expired to keep the chain holding. Absolutely. The mood in the company is tense, but also very much it's just a rough transition period. Activision has been pushing hard for Blizzard to release more regular products and to generate more income per user. As far as I know, this is going to be a transition over the next 5 years to a much larger mobile tablet gaming focus, of course. By all accounts, not just WoW, but Overwatch was intended to be the moneymaker in the interim. But once again, someone had the bright idea to kill a game casual players loved on the altar of esports. How many more times are we going to see that happen before they learn their lesson? How many more games, especially fighting games, but not only fighting games, are going to destroy all appeal they had outside of esports to chase that esports money? And hoping for another brood war. Oh, not going to happen. From what I hear, the told you so's were loud and a lot of people walked beyond Kaplan. It's good. So a lot of people are leaving Blizzard in general because they know the company is circling the drain. They know it's over. They have nowhere to go but down. I don't feel any ill will towards anybody that is abandoning this sinking ship. None. The sentiment that was shared quietly in private but is being spoken more often is simply that the leadership at Blizzard are not bad people, nor incompetent, but people who had to fill seats left when the old guard jumped ship, whether they were suited for it or not. Yeah, the people who actually created Blizzard from the ground up and made it the behemoth it is now left, and those they left behind are not big enough to fill the shoes that were left behind for them. Well, J. Allen Brack is a genuinely good man out of his depth. Ian is a fantastic grade designer put in charge of designing a virtual world he has no interest or real ideas for, and so on. Yeah, so Ian should never have been moved outside of raiding. It's obvious that that's what he wants to do. You could see this in almost any job, though, actually. How many times have you seen a employee that's really good at what they do get promoted to management and suddenly like they're miserable, they're really bad managers? Oh, it's bad. They've been taking form, the roles they excel at, to be put in positions where they get to do far less of that, purely because there's nobody left with the experience to do so, and the trickle down is a lack of concrete direction, ambition, and focus. So current year has seen the player base, media, and gaming at large turn on WoW to a degree I don't think the leads in their Positivity Dojo bubble considered possible. It's gone from people going, this is how Blizzard needs to fix WoW, to WoW is no longer salvageable, time for greener pastures. Yeah, this is what happens when the apathy kicks in. If you ignore your disgruntled customers long enough, eventually they'll just give up. Like at this point, all the WoW fanboys were like, after 10 years of this shit, it's painfully obvious that Blizzard isn't going to listen. I'm done trying. I'm moving on. And I think on some level, this was never considered as a possibility, so there have never been any major plans beyond the usual try and minimize player drop-off by arranging releases around competitors, launching updates and products. The official forums began filling with talk of Final Fantasy XIV, and worse, why do we actually pay a sub hasn't helped. Damn straight. And this one's the funniest. There has been some testing the waters lately from certain higher-ups if we can remove the line, no king rules forever. Read into that what you will. Yes. Oh, these people are just trolls, yeah? All these disgruntled customers, like they're just alt-right Nazi trolls. You can only bank on nostalgia for so long without delivering on that nostalgia. There are still arguments going on about the Kael'thas voice actor shit show. I don't know much about it, but I know it's heated. Wouldn't be the first time a knee-jerk reaction only seemed to generate bad press. We lost a noticeable amount of PvP engagement after the Swifty thing. What a shock! If you appeal to Twitter outrage mobs, you end up alienating your actual customers. Who could have predicted that? The Preach interview was treated as a disaster. Oh, I'm actually surprised they did an interview with Preach, because he's been not as critical of them as Asmongold, but he's still been pretty critical of Blizzard. And I think he actually lost his insider access to Blizzard because he pissed him off too much. Oh man. So there was a talk of more strongly vetting interviewers for bad actors, aka actual customers, who are now all going to Final Fantasy 14, by the way, and only engaging with a list of questions Blizzard provides. Yeah, dude, if I got someone on for an interview and they showed up and they're like, oh, here's the questions you're allowed to ask me, that interview was canceled. Like, no, we're not doing this. I'm not going to do that. You could just put out a press release if that's what you want to do. Now, I can understand not doing interviews with people who are hostile to you, though. Like, for example, I would never do an interview with the mainstream media because I know they're just going to clip it and edit it deceptively to make me look as bad as possible so they can twist my own words into making me look bad. Someone pointed out that that could just be used to create some form of fireside chat akin to the Final Fantasy XIV live letters, but that fell on deaf ears. I think they get pretty butthurt every time Final Fantasy XIV is brought up now. The two sentiments right now among the team are either we really need a win or there's a dedicated cabal of internet trolls out to kill WoW. It really does kind of annoy me that this is actually true, though. Like we've seen it from how these people act on social media. Their shit don't stink, and if anyone has a problem with it, they're just a troll. Right now, we are crunching hard to get 9.2 ready to wrap up the Jailer storyline so we can get an expansion out in early current year +1. If that doesn't happen, there are talks of major shakeups coming down from Activision that have been threatened for a few years now. It's all hands on deck, or it's an all hands on deck feeling that has been around to some degree since the is this an out of season April Fool's joke BlizzCon. I'm glad that actually had an effect on them. A make or break deadline is coming closer, and things like Diablo 4 were not at all planned before then. Yeah, Diablo 4 is only happening because of how bad the reaction to Immortal was. You know damn well they were never even planning on making another Diablo game, on PC anyway. Now, Blizzard needs a significant win, not just in initial profit, but consumer goodwill. Nobody likes working at what the public now seems to see as the bad guy of the MMO industry, or gaming industry in general. And see, this is another funny moment, because Activision may be vindicated again. Quite a few of these problems are not Activision problems. They're Blizzard problems. And if you don't believe me, you think I'm crazy defending Activision? Think back to Destiny, to Bungie. Remember when Bungie left Activision and they got to walk with their IP? They got to keep Destiny? Everyone thought it was going to get so much better now that Activision isn't there fucking it up. And what actually happened? Go on, tell me what actually happened. Yeah, things got worse. Activision was what was keeping the game from getting worse than it was. And I think Activision knew what a dumpster fire Bungie was going to be with that game. So I think they just let them go because they thought it would be cheaper than cleaning up the mess. This has also made new hires decline. Not significantly, but the you want Blizzard on your resume line doesn't seem to have the appeal it used to. And the nostalgia's gone as well. That's another important thing. Once the nostalgia is gone, none of these easy to exploit college grads are going to be coming in again. This has led to more hiring via friend of a friend, to some rumblings about nepotism and people severely lacking in experience because they get great Twitter optics. They are staffing the company with useless woke parasites for Twitter optics, and they are about to go broke. I think there's a saying for this. I can't remember it off the top of my head, though. On the topic of Twitter, we are now being told to disengage from it. A wise decision. Multiple employees like Nervig and Holinsky publicly attacking paying customers because they got too heated and couldn't keep quiet is bad press that could have been avoided. Oh, yeah, after that shit that they did to Asmongold, I don't think it's entirely that he gave Final Fantasy XIV a shot. It's how Blizzard was reacting. Everyone's like, yeah, that's it. I'm done with this company. An email reminder has gone around more than once lately stating if you're not customer relations, you should not be representing the company to customers, especially if you cannot remain professional. They're going to have to start firing people. Now we talk about the big guy. Lastly, the biggest elephant in the room is your boy, Asmongold. The newer hires cannot stand him. They have used terms like toxic masculinity and dog whistles to dangerous males. That is the future of Blizzard right there. Those newer hires, the woke. Blizzard is done. They are unsalvageable. It's over. Their best people have left to form their own companies. The one I'm watching in particular is Frost Giant, because that was made by the team that did their RTS games. There's never going to be another StarCraft. There's never going to be another Warcraft RTS game. Even though they did kind of tease a Warcraft 4, it's not going to happen. They have no RTS team anymore. While some of the oldest crowds still remaining have called him based or telling it like it is, which has led to friction, to put it mildly. Well, let's analyze this for a second. When they were doing things the way the old crowd wanted, they were like the king of the industry. Now they're doing it the new way, and they've been dethroned by Final Fantasy XIV. Seems like a pretty open and shut case to me. People are told not to talk about him, and the recent Final Fantasy XIV stuff has only made it all the worse. The idea that an outside element can have such an effect on the product genuinely upsets people. Yeah, it's fucking upsetting that customers won't keep buying garbage, huh? Who the hell do you think you were making these games for? Like Zach is engaging in some malicious act of cyber warfare. Many of us have to point out that now famous quotes by Naoki Yoshida about understanding that players will drift, and we need to make something worth coming back to because they want to, but some people, for lack of a better word, see our customers, or consumers as they refer to them nowadays, as some kind of antagonistic relationship where the goal is not being an entertainer, putting on a show for a crowd, but some kind of game hunter trying to trap a large profitable kill. I absolutely agree with this sentiment. That is how these people see it. Like, they don't see their customers as like partners in their success. They see them as adversaries. Like, how do we trick these fucking idiots into spending more of their money and time on our garbage product? How can we make it more addictive and exploitative? And then they wonder why the customers hate them back. I wish I could blame Activision, but this is a sentiment from more of the younger crowd than the tech boomers, which, personal opinion, is probably why so many folks like Metzen and Morheim left. Dude, I would do the same thing. Even if it was my own company. Like, say if I made a horrible mistake in the future and Sigfox Studios became a publicly traded company, and I saw that other people were making the decision to make the company go woke, I'd leave in a heartbeat. Like, yeah, I can't work in this place anymore. I would immediately walk away and start making spiritual successors to everything. And yeah, final piece here. Before you ask, yes, the topic of wokeness has shown up in group talks. It's not all some grand SJW conspiracy. People really do want people to feel welcome and represented, while they make people who disagree with them feel as unwelcome as possible. However, the we need everything vetoed by people not working on it to see if it's inoffensive and bland enough rubs some of us the wrong way. Well, it's your fault for sticking around instead of leaving with like Morheim in them. Like anything in life, you can take something too far and lose sight of the core ideals. And with everything going on since Blitzchung, it feels like people are forming little factions to pull people in different directions to decide what Blizzard's identity is now. Blizzard's identity is a dumpster fire, and how to appeal to new players. Look at what Final Fantasy XIV is doing. There's been some drop-offs with Get Woke, Go Broke as the only answer in the survey when unsubbing, but honestly, we are losing subs in unforeseen numbers anyway and still making more money than ever through the cash shop whales, so it honestly doesn't make an impact. All in all, things are rough right now. Blizzard doesn't have the love of the customers anymore. It's no longer treated as an industry giant, and while Diablo 4 and Diablo 2 remaster, which they're woking up, and Immortal aren't going to kill Diablo even if they fail, the sentiment for World of Warcraft and Overwatch 2 are a lot more tense and stressful. The phrase, it might be good to brush up on your mobile development portfolio if we get another underperformer, has been doing the rounds a lot. If Shadowlands continues its stark decline and Overwatch 2 is looking to underperform like its current projections suggest, I think the Blizzard of a few years from now is going to be imitating King a lot more than trying to learn any lessons from Squeenix's MMO division. Hard truths right there. That's what the future holds. All right, so either way, let's get to what Mark Cern posted. And in case you guys don't know who he is, Mark Cern was one of the more prominent members of Blizzard until right up when, shortly after World of Warcraft launched. So World of Warcraft was a massive success, like bigger than Blizzard could have ever imagined. And their reaction was, oh, we're going to be a real company now. And Mark left like a few months after World of Warcraft launched because he saw the writing on the wall. So if anyone knows what they're talking about when it comes to Blizzard, it's him. So supposedly, this is a Blizzard leak about the current state of WoW, and that's what we just covered. It may not be legit, but the attitude described by Monetization and how devs view gamers and the hate of streamers is true overall in AAA dev. He would know. And see, he did an interview with The Quartering, and he coined this term that I've been copying since I heard it. That global standards is basically censoring down to the lowest common denominator. So if you like anything that's not the blandest shit you can think of, you want to avoid appealing to a global audience. So how did we get here? A couple of things happened in AAA development that led up to this point. The biggest thing is the money. Once AAA gaming got bigger than all media, you start to attract a lot of executives who are in it for the immense profit versus the love of making games. That's the same thing I've been talking about. The old guards, like the fans, were replaced by professional bean counters. This change starts at the top and is made worse by game companies going public. Yeah, once you put your game your company in the hands of shareholders, you're basically their bitch. This starts to flow down to middle management who are starting to make serious cash. The why of a company changes. Instead of going for games they would love to play and identifying as gamers themselves, there's now a sense of other. We made the games, they pay for them. Yeah, that's why so many of these AAA games seem so soulless, because they're made by non-gamers. A lot of the decision makers actually hate gaming and gamers. The only thing they know how to do is focus groups and committees. And it shows. And this is why I keep saying, if you want to replace these losers, the best way to do it is you got to find something that you love, that you are a super big fan of, that you want to make. And again, as a fan, you should know exactly what other fans would want and have that match up with what your audience wants. Because it's entirely possible that what you want to make is just a big no-go with the audience you've cultivated. So there has to be a match. The product you put out has to match your audience. So all of that has to align. That's when we get people's best work. OG Blizzard culture used to be we are gamers, right down to the receptionist. We make a game for ourselves because we are gamers. That is gone now. The devs at many AAA studios are distinctly us versus them, the whiny, entitled gamers. This was not helped by the increase in personal attacks on devs by gamers themselves. Gamers are passionate, and unfortunately, this sometimes leads to moving beyond criticizing the game to personal attacks and some really unsavory, threatening behaviors. All right, to be fair, gamers are just responding to how they've been treated. If the developers keep launching personal attacks against the gamers, like how Blizzard did to Asmongold, do you expect us to just sit there and take it? Yeah, no, do not give me this sob story. It's not like the people who are being attacked, quote unquote, are just innocent parties in this. They're the instigators, and they're getting blowback. So let's get back to the money. Once games were obvious moneymakers and everyone started to play them and a cool rep, you started to attract a different type of developer. The first wave did it for free, made very little money, very little success, just to make dreams happen. But once games were viewed as a stable, it's a myth, and more glamorous career choice with good pay, you started to attract the types of professional who are very good at their job, but definitely what I call 9-to-5ers. They treat it not as a passion, but as a routine job. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're competent. It depends on what position you're in. The more creative positions should have a passion. Like, they should be actual fans. But if we're talking about the guys that just do the grunt work of the inventory and combat systems under the hood, it doesn't matter if those guys are 9-to-5ers. Just give them an exact description of what you want them to make, and they'll make it. Both of these types can coexist. Again, this wasn't helped by upper management, who is now fully flooded with MBA and marketing types who treat devs poorly and bench hire and fire them from project to project, treating them as tools. Yup, hey, the game released, you're all fired now. And then they rehire a month later for a different project. Hard to have a passion when both management and angry gamers don't have your back. Yeah, I actually feel for the few remaining decent game developers in AAA who legitimately are fans and just want to make good games, but they're being crippled by their own leadership. And then, the fans are obviously pinning some of the blame on them for what's happening. Then Zynga blew up big on Facebook, and metrics were becoming more important along with predatory monetization. When mobile exploded and everything became free, but with pay to win, the sheer scale of gaming profits leapt an order of magnitude or two forwards. Billions. Not millions. Now, let me do the fuck you I was right dance real quick. Because I remember in the early 2000s, long before I had my YouTube channel, obviously, like a decade before I even made my YouTube channel. Yes, I am that old. I was playing a Chinese MMO called Conquer Online. And even back then, they had all of this monetization. Like, you had to upgrade your weapons. You had the meteors and the Dragon Balls. Like, meteors you could find relatively frequently in the world. But even then, it was a much better bargain to either buy it from someone at the market or you just go to the cash shop. But the Dragon Balls were so rare that anytime one of them spawned, it announced the coordinates it spawned at to the whole fucking server. And then when someone picked it up, it also announced to the whole server the name of the person who picked it up. And this was a game that had free PvP almost anywhere. So you had to be real quick getting that Dragon Ball someplace safe or else. But so I played Conquer for a while, and they had a lot of this cash shop shit in it. Like Dragon Balls, yeah, you basically had to buy them with real life money. They were so rare otherwise. And I remember talking to some of my friends and other randos online about how Western MMOs are gonna turn into the same thing. Western MMOs are gonna have the same fucking pay-to-win monetization that Eastern ones do. And I remember every last one of these idiots like, oh, no, you're just being a conspiracy theorist. That would never fly here in the West. Oh, it's a completely different culture over here. What works over there in Asia won't work over here. Nah, you're just talking out your ass, RGE. That would never happen here. Well, fuck you, I was right. Sorry, I had like 20 years of pent-up aggression I had to get out there. Yeah, suddenly making games for game's sake was not the goal. Now games needed to collect metrics, retain users, and the way success was judged was more about how much money per user you could make versus having a great game. Damn right. The focus moved from gameplay to monetization metrics. When you designed for monetization metrics, you get a very different type of game than you did if you designed for gameplay. The two are often at odds. You find yourself deliberately making your game worse so it can sell better convenience items and power items. So this is something that has always pissed me off. Just think about this rationally. If you buy convenience items in these games, what is it you are actually doing? If you break this down to its core element, paying for convenience items in a game is you're basically paying real life money to avoid playing the game. You should want to play the game because it's fun. If you are actually putting down cold hard cash so you can avoid playing the fucking game, maybe you're addicted, you have a problem, and you need to get help. Because I could tell you a shortcut right now. A much cheaper way to achieve the same effect is just uninstall that fucking game and play something that respects your time, like Deep Rock Galactic or Factorio. Steve Jobs was right. When you let this type of why drive your company and you make monetization the only goal, you kill the innovation in your company and you drive out the innovators and makers. Yeah, they all left to start their own companies. While Jobs was talking about the sales and marketing staff versus product makers, in games it's worse. In games, designers are now the sales staff. The gamification of monetization makes or breaks a AAA game, so now even your product people are contaminated with this mentality. The devs who do it for the passion, who are tired of being blamed by gamers for corporate decisions above them, and who do it out of genuine passion, they will leave and go indie. And that is the only correct decision, by the way. The only correct choice is to separate yourself from the system that's crippling you. What remains are those who are doing it as a job, the one they often hate, and they are not innovators. And also, the second a better opportunity comes along, they jump ship. Oh, so speaking of jobs, little bit of a side tangent here, but this would be the perfect time to tell this story. So at the company my sister works at, one of their senior developers, a guy who's been there for, I think, like she said, 20 years, he's pretty much been there from the beginning of the company. And he was one of the guys who was viewed as untouchable and above the rules. He could do what he wants. And he was actually good at his job, though. But completely coincidentally, at exactly the same time as the company fell under new management and became a real company now, he just lost all motivation. And apparently, like 2 weeks ago, he was busted charging like 40 hours to a project. And then they caught him not actually doing any work on it. Like he just charged the time. And then they asked him, hey, what did you do during this time? He had nothing to show. And so everyone was talking in the company. It's like, wow, are they actually going to like crack the whip on Boomer over here, who's been here from day one, and the good old boy who's untouchable? And yeah, the new management tried to crack down on him. Like they were going to write him up and everything. So you know what his response was? It's like, you could do whatever the fuck you want. This is basically my 2-week notice. So he stopped caring like 2 years ago and has just been milking paychecks ever since. And then he's been shifting over time from doing the bare minimum to just doing less and less to see how much he can get away with. And once he finally got to the point where he couldn't get away with it anymore, he just walked. Because apparently that dude already has more than enough money to retire anyway. So he just didn't care. He was just seeing how far he can push it before they actually put their foot down. And when he found out where that line was, he's like, oh, my curiosity has been sated. Here's my 2-week notice. I don't give a fuck anymore. So it was absolutely hilarious. I wish I could be there. I could have been there to see that. That was some good shit, though. And funny thing is, back when he was actually motivated before the new management ruined the company, he was one of the people that was responsible for keeping the whole thing running, and now he's gone. Over the past 2 years, I think they've lost everybody who was actually vital to keep that company going. So my sister's been telling me, it's like, yeah, I'll probably be unemployed this year because I don't see this company lasting through Christmas. All right, let's go back here. The arrogance is also real. Steve talks about how you get surprised because you have a monopoly on the market. WoW had the monopoly on MMOs, and they're no longer gamers, but game salespeople. Of course, they're prone to disruption. Yeah, if only companies didn't become real companies after they got big, they could stay at the top. That's what makes this hilarious. If Blizzard continued doing the things they did up until like StarCraft 2, they could have still been fine. So in this case, it wasn't the Square and Final Fantasy by itself. That just happened to be a game that was competing on gameplay instead of monetization because they were not the monopoly. It's also an old enough game where the old values of gameplay were more important. Yeah, you don't see that with the new MMOs. What sparked the exodus from WoW started with a player base that was tired of being treated as customers are often treated in a monopoly, taken for granted, poor service in terms of content, not being listened to, milk for cash and fees. All of that is true for World of Warcraft, all of it. Then came the streamers. Streamers are the world's biggest force in game marketing, and they can make you a success overnight with zero traditional marketing, like Apex Legends showed, or they can absolutely tear your game down. Many in the traditional AAA marketing never understood this, and many still don't get it today. When streamers were just getting started, I was told by my EA and AAA staff marketing team that what a waste it was to do YouTube and Twitch, even though it cost a fraction of an ad spend. Yeah, so they would rather you spend way more money traditionally advertising to places where there's non-gamer boomers than going to the places where your actual audience is. Marketing right there. I'm sure those guys all got degrees. Of course, they were wrong, and they now curry favor and spend money on Twitch and YouTube, but they don't really understand it. They spend money on it, but they don't actually watch the streams to understand when things are going wrong, or they don't believe it'll affect them. So when Asmongold started dipping his toes into alternatives to WoW, interviewing Final Fantasy content creators and then finally playing it himself on stream, Blizzard was unaware or unbelieving of what was happening. They were the monopoly. Well, no king rules forever. Even Asmongold was taken by shock at the sheer number of viewers his Final Fantasy stream attracted. I think it was over 200,000. I think he gained 7,000 subscribers during that too. That's a lot of that's more money per month than a lot of people make per year. Even he had underestimated the number of dissatisfied and curious for alternative WoW gamers. Well, what happens in streaming? Once one content creator hits a gold vein of views, others quickly hop on. Suddenly, you have many WoW streamers talking about Final Fantasy and start streaming it. What's a WoW gamer to think? Now, to be fair, it works this way almost everywhere. It works this way in gaming as well, right? Once one publisher hits a gold vein, every single other developer and publisher makes copycats. I mean, Blizzard of all people should know. Once they released World of Warcraft, every MMO for the next few years was a World of Warcraft clone. The rest is history. The king is dethroned, an expression of shock on his face. Sometimes you don't need the best product. You just need to be good enough to take advantage of a company that has rested too long on their brand and monopoly to actually change, innovate, and improve. Yeah, so that's the thing with these companies. They are so packed with bloat And the bloat only cares about preserving itself. Removing the bloat is what it would take to save these companies. But the bloat isn't going to let that happen. Never. These companies are doomed to fail. They will collapse. There's no saving them. If this won't stop, WoW gamers are leaving for good. I left for good years ago. But if the monopoly can wake up and pull an expansion out as a turnaround as drastic as Square itself did with the Realm Reborn, it can flip it around again. The problem is, Blizzard, you chased all your innovators away. Oh, well. Yeah, everyone who would have been capable of doing that is no longer at the company. So that's what's going on. And I think it's more than just World of Warcraft. Like, Overwatch is trending to be a flop as well. No one really cares about Diablo anymore. I think Diablo is probably going to be a lot. It may even be a mild success, but I doubt they're ever going to have another mega hit.
Oh man, I am so excited to tell you guys right now that finally, after about a year of build-up and shilling, we have launched Blade Devil on Indiegogo, and so far it is doing so well thanks to awesome people like you. If you haven't backed it yet, then please check the links in the description and check out Blade Devil on Indiegogo. You will not be disappointed. Looking forward to seeing you there.